Hi, everybody. We'd like to welcome all of you to the first Baashar event of 2021. We're looking forward to having another exciting year of different kinds of information that Baashar is going to be sharing with us as we move forward in this new year. There are obviously many things that are changing and happening, not only with our particular area, but around the world. So we're really looking forward to having all of you join us for this new adventure with Baashar. He's probably going to have some very different and interesting kinds of things to say this year. And so we're going to get right into it in just a few seconds. But again, I would really like to give my deep appreciation to everyone for joining today and for going with us on this journey, and those that have been with us for such a long time. We really deeply appreciate your support and the family that we have all co-created together. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the months and years to come, and I'm sure that we're all going to have a very interesting journey as we not only go deeper into ourselves, but explore what's going on out in the world and out in the cosmos as we grow closer and closer to the beginning of the window of open contact with Baashar's people and other extraterrestrial races. So again, thank you so much. It will take me a minute now, obviously, to go into the altered state and let Baashar come through. So I hope you all have a wonderful time today. And I do look forward to being able to see all of you at some point in the future in person. So thank you and have fun. All right, I'll say good day to all of you this day of your time. Let us begin this transmission by reminding you that the title is Let's Get High. Now, this is meaning in the word high, capital H period, capital I period, capital G period, capital H period. And we would now like to explain what this is all about. In the changes that are now taking place in your society and around your world, and as we continue through the passageway that we have called the eye of the needle, where you are going to go through whatever process is necessary to divest yourself of the belief systems that no longer align with who you prefer to be, and let them go so that you can accelerate through this passageway toward the new beginning of the window of open contact in your year of 2023. We would like to share with you a state of being that is important for you to generate for yourselves as often as possible, every day, if possible, that will help you slip through this passage more easily and deal with whatever it is that comes up during this time. So let us begin to explain what this high vibrational formula actually represents. It is different emotional states, different energy states in this one word, represented by these four letters. That is a particular formula or equation of energy that will allow you to remain grounded, but at the same time allow your consciousness to expand in very specific ways that will see you through any challenges that may come up as you move forward through this passageway. The first H stands for honesty. It is of critical importance in this time for you to express the idea of honesty in your lives. Now, of course, we are talking about the idea in general of not necessarily telling lies, although that's not really what the idea of this honesty state of being is about. It's more about being honest with yourselves in your deep investigations of your belief systems, not ignoring, not glossing over, but allowing yourself to be truly honest about your motivations, what you believe to be true, so that you can become much more transparent within yourself and have more ease in discovering the belief systems that may be out of alignment with who you truly prefer to be, and thus the belief systems and definitions that may be holding you back from moving forward as swiftly, as smoothly, as effortlessly as you possibly could. So, in the sense of this honesty, it is about know thyself, self-examination, not being afraid to dig deeply, dive deeply within your own mental ability to assess yourself, to be all right with discovering the fears that may exist within your belief systems. In other words, not being afraid to be afraid, and knowing yourself more clearly, more truly, and allowing yourself then to let go of those things that do not allow you to perpetuate that clarity, that honesty of your own being, and presenting yourself in the world that way as the honest, true self. Of course, we understand that it is also about the idea of not necessarily telling falsehoods, although we do understand that there can be circumstances in your reality where what you call little white lies might actually be the kindest thing you can do. But also it's about being honest within yourself to know what your relationships are, what is appropriate for you to communicate to yourself and to others in your relationships with other people on your planet, so that you will know the difference between something that you're saying that may not be what you truly, actually, factually observe, but are being able to relate a kindness to someone, to soften something for them because you understand they are looking to be handled gently, handled kindly. And so we understand that we're not really referring to the idea of not necessarily telling the whole truth to someone that you may feel, but it's also an opportunity to get in touch with why you do feel or believe that way. So that again, in clarifying yourself, you may then find yourself not so often in situations where you might be forced to say something that might not be wholly true, but would be necessary in order to impart a kindness to someone by not being, shall we say, so completely honest with them about what you feel in that moment, but being more honest with yourself about why you feel the way that you do, giving yourself a chance to clarify that for yourself so that it may become completely unnecessary for you to say the things or be in the situations where you're forced to say the things that might be those little white lies in order to impart kindness to someone who has asked you a question or exploring something with you. The second letter is integrity, I for integrity. And this again amplifies the idea of being a holistic being, true to yourself, having your own understanding of your ethical standards, your own concept of the morals, and allowing yourself to stick with them, of not having contradictory or conflicting belief systems within yourself that allow you to act one way in one situation and a completely different way as a different person in another situation, but maintaining the integrity of what you believe to be true about yourself so that you move forward in a holistic way, not split, not in conflict, not necessarily presenting more than one identity or one face to others so they can understand more clearly and more transparently who you truly are so that they will understand who they are really in a relationship with. So you are not fooling them or faking them out or changing your mind every other second to confuse people as to what you stand for and who you are. Having the integrity to be integral, to be allowing all of the aspects of your being to function harmoniously, harmonically, synchronistically with themselves, so that you present yourself and to the world as a particular frequency that is representative of your truth, who you truly are, and not creating confusion and the idea of misunderstanding and misrepresentation and misinterpretation about what it is you do stand for in your life, in the world, what is really the truth for you, after an honest self-examination of honesty in getting to the core of who you are and what you really need, and letting go of those fear-based beliefs that may cause confusion within you and confusion within others about who they are dealing with. So we have the idea of the honesty within the self, the integrity to move forward as the true self, with all components and aspects of consciousness in alignment. And then we move to the G, which stands for gratitude. So you have honesty, integrity, and gratitude for your life, for who you are, for your existence. For that is the true core of what you call prayer, is simply being in deep appreciation and deep gratitude for what is and who you are, and even the things that may manifest in your life as the challenges, as the things you may not necessarily objectively prefer, and still knowing that they are there manifesting for a reason that can serve you, to be always in a state of appreciation and gratitude for what is in your life, not focusing on what isn't in your life, as we have said before in the AAA formula of acknowledging what is there, not what is not there, allowing it to move forward after you have given it deep appreciation for being there, because you know you can use it in whatever way is necessary to enhance your life in a positive way, to get a benefit out of it. Therefore, it doesn't really matter what it is. So be appreciative and grateful in a state of gratitude for everything that manifests, for where you're at and what you've learned and how you can move forward by taking those lessons with you, not so much dwelling on the past, but being in the present so that you can move forward into your future in a way, again, that brings the honesty and integrity with you as you remain in a state of gratitude and appreciation for who you are and what you are experiencing in this physical reality that you have chosen to explore. And then, finally, in this formula, the final H, which, as some of you may be surprised to learn, stands for humility. The idea of remaining grounded as you expand your consciousness. The idea of allowing yourself to rely on the obvious and to not necessarily allow yourself to become too enamored with your expansion, allowing yourself to remain on a level where you are relatable, where you can, in a sense, allow others to be able to interact with you in a way where you are approachable, where you can interact, where you are an inviting individual in that sense, not pushing anything on anyone, not necessarily needing anyone to know anything in particular about whatever gift you have to give. For there will always be an audience if you have a gift to give. That is absolutely certain, or you wouldn't be excited about the gifts that you are giving from yourself. But the idea is to remain grounded and humble with the things that you are giving out, that you are sharing, that you are being. Stay centered, stay focused within yourself, and know that the importance is simply being the reflection and the mirror for others, to allow them to be of service to them, to allow them to become more of who they are through their interactions with you, for that is the core of every relationship, no matter what kind, is to be there for the other, to allow them to become more of themselves, even as they ideally choose to do that for you. So in remaining humble, in humility, you can, as equals, move forward, none being greater or more valid than any other, and allowing yourself then, with the idea of honesty, integrity, gratitude, and humility, to form a particular bubble state of being, a particular formula of vibrational frequencies and energies that will carry you through in a very sacred way through the months and years to come and allow you to slip more smoothly through this passage, through the eye of the needle, so that eventually you can emerge as a being that is in synchronous harmony with itself, with all life around it and within it, and allow yourself to be known for who you truly are, so that none have to fear that you have any particular outside agenda or hidden agenda about expressing yourself and your creativity and your passion in the world, but that you do so only to give the gifts you have to share, to be of service to others, and to be your true self, so that all know who you are, who they're in a relationship with, and can benefit from the reflections that you give as the mirror in whatever relationships you form, thus inviting others to do the same for you. So with honesty, with integrity, and with gratitude and humility, we will extend to each and every one of you our deepest appreciation and unconditional love in moving forward together in harmony with us, being that is your choice, of course. And at this particular point, in gratitude for allowing us to share this idea, this state of being in this little formula, which is very powerful, with all of you, I ask, in what way now may we be of service to you? Please begin with your questions and comments so that we may share moving forward together.
Hi, Baashar. This is Sheila from Lakeland, Florida, and I'm excited to get to ask you this question. So this question has to do with an experience or a sighting that my husband and I had recently. So first of all, we were inspired to take a walk in a different area than we haven't walked in this area before. So that seemed interesting, first to start with the inspiration. And the walk didn't seem like anything special until we saw this orangey, glowing, it looked like a fireball sort of coming at us in the night sky. And so that was a little concerning to be like, oh, what is this? And it's coming at us. And then just when I had this little bit of a concern about it, interest, but there was concern, it seemed like it turned. So I went from thinking it's an organic thing like a meteor to now it's something else, and it turned. And then we got a side view of it, and it seemed to be, round on one end and kind of shaped like this, and orangey, still kind of looking like how I would think a meteor would look coming into the system, but it wasn't behaving that way. I don't know how to describe it, except the movement seemed weird. It felt important. It felt significant. It felt like, ooh, this is something really interesting and exciting, and I'd like to know more about that. Thank you so much.
There are many craft that go from one dimension to another, passing through your reality. The fact that someone may perceive it means that your vibrational alignment may be conducive to that particular frequency at that particular moment, allowing your senses to become more aware of all of the traffic that is around you all the time, coming and going through your reality. So it can be right now a symbol for you of an increase in sensitivity to higher dimensional frequencies that will allow you to perceive over time more and more of the comings and goings of different beings in levels of consciousness as they express themselves in whatever form of energy is appropriate while they pass through your particular reality. So use it as a marker for an increased sensitivity in your ability to relate to higher frequencies and dimensions of experience, would be our suggestion for you at this time.
Hello, Baashar.
And a you good day.
Hey, so I spoke to you in this way about 4 months ago.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful and honored to have so much Baashar in my life. So
we are grateful and honored to have all of you in our lives as well.
Yeah, so thank you. And I know your favorite T is brevity. So
Yes.
I'll do a really quick recap.
Thank you.
I got diagnosed with AML, which is a really dangerous and aggressive blood cancer. Doctor said, hey, if you don't do aggressive chemo, you're going to die, likely within 3 to 6 weeks. I still chose to be discharged. I did a detox, and then we spoke, and you had said, be open to all forms of healing and just
Yes.
kind of let your life guide you. And I just want to say that was really good advice, which I knew at the time, but it turned out to be really good advice. And yeah, I got through the whole experience in a really kind of flowing, effortless way.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And so in December, we did a bone marrow biopsy, and it showed no detectable trace of leukemia at all whatsoever.
All right.
Testing. So that's awesome. And the real key for me with that was, I think, vitamin C. I think like high dose vitamin C was, I think, super effective.
Was your permission slip.
Right. And so my permission slip, and I don't know how general that is as well.
To some degree it is for many people. Part of the general consensus reality, not for everyone, but for many.
Yeah. And you had also discussed with me that these types of experiences often result in like a shift of focus.
Yes.
For people. And I was trying to think about, for me, because I feel like in a way, I mean, I loved my life before, and I'm going to go back in a very similar way. But at the same time, I think one thing that came out of this experience for me was throughout this whole process, I was making videos to tell my friends how I was doing and just inform people what was happening.
Yes.
And that's been an amazing experience, and I've loved it. And I didn't realize I liked making videos so much.
All right. Well, thank you for teaching yourself more about yourself through that experience.
Yeah. No, so thank you. And so I will definitely continue to do that. And I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel, kind of upload those and like make more videos as I go.
All right. Up to you.
So thank you. And so I had some questions that kind of relate to this experience. I know you don't do health readings, so it won't be that. But specifically where you say all pain is resistance to the natural self.
Yes, in general.
So, okay, I'll give you an illustration, if you will. So say in a parallel reality, which I would perceive to be my past, I'm best friends with Buddha, okay? Him and I are best friends, and we're walking down the street. We're about to go somewhere to get some food, not like in a lunch sense, but just sit, and then people would feed us, because that's how it worked back then. And he stubs his toe. He's like, Patrick, I stubbed my toe. And I'm like, Buddha, you got to let that stuff go, man. What are you resisting? Would that be good advice?
Not necessarily, because as we have also said, and as many people on your planet have said, sometimes there are just circumstances within physical reality that happen because you are in physical reality. Not that you can't gain some insight or lesson from it, but not everything is a 100% dire lesson. Sometimes it's just watch where you're stepping.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I guess the point I'm trying to make is I understand if, say, you have a expectation something is going to happen and then it doesn't, and you resist that process, then there can be a lot of suffering because of that. Because you say, I don't want it to be a different way, and like I don't want that, and I'm resisting, and it's painful.
That's more what we are referring to when we say that pain is the result of resistance to the natural self, because you are not buying into, shall we say, or accepting your natural flow of how things unfold in your life, and not understanding that things are happening as they happen to give you opportunities to know more about yourself, to have more insight into your relationship and definitions of that circumstance.
Right. Okay. And so that I'm totally on board with. But then does this also then go into, for example, physical pain? So things that so things that I've noticed in my own life, like for example, with this whole cancer adventure that I was on, a lot of people, I think, experience a lot of pain in these types of processes. I had very little. I mean, almost none, I would say.
Yes.
And so then that would then also be kind of a reflection of that, right?
You didn't necessarily have a high degree of resistance to going through the experience because you were willing to be open to the idea that you would learn something that you needed to learn. And so you used it in a way that was, quote unquote, less resistant, therefore less painful.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I have to say I really loved it. Like that might be a weird thing to say, but I really like, it really showed me a lot, and it was a very powerful experience because I felt like I got to stand in my power, you know, kind of decide my own path, and it just...
That's the point.
Yeah, and it just fully worked out. I mean, like full on worked, so it was great. I loved it.
All right. All right. Thank you.
And okay, so I have another example for you. So say you're my neighbor,
You mean me specifically?
you specifically,
Yes.
but not like, but you're a human, okay? But
Oh,
you
all right.
specifically, because I like to talk to you. So you're my neighbor, and I see you in the hallway, and I'm like, oh, hey, Baashar, how's it going? And we go in the elevator, and then in the elevator, I'm like, so COVID vaccine, are you going to get it? What do you think?
I can't comment on this at this time.
Okay. Well,
You
can I
are in
tell you how I
mid-process.
feel?
You are in mid-process. This is a health issue, and you know we cannot talk about that.
Okay. Well, can I just share some thoughts on it just from my perspective? And
You may share if you wish.
okay. So this is how I feel about it. I feel, well, I have degrees in physics and math, so I love science. Okay.
Yes.
And I understand that there is a sort of social responsibility component where you say, I may not be in an age group where you're very much in danger, but you want to contribute to the idea of getting herd immunity for everybody. And so it's a public service. And you could also say that, well, I mean, I am at a little bit of risk of dying and maybe less risk of dying of the vaccine. So there's also a bit of a personal component there. But I also feel somewhat resistance to putting things in my body that I feel like don't have to be there. And I don't know exactly what's in it, what kind of toxins are in it. So yeah, I just feel like I see both sides of it. And I'm probably going to get it because I like to travel internationally and I think it'll be required. But I just wanted to get your take on it. So
I have no take on it, as I told you. Everyone must find their own path and be open to deciding for themselves what is the path of least resistance for them based on their own belief systems and what they believe works not only for them but in service to others. It's up to you to determine this. We cannot comment on it.
right. Okay. Well, I will just say I certainly have the belief system that if I get it, which I will likely, I will not have any side effects. Most likely.
Don't be
Resistant to
insistent.
that idea.
Don't be insistent.
Exactly. Okay, this is so good. All right, I have another question. My mom and I actually talk about this a fair amount. So you have often talked about we're transitioning, the splitting prism, different parallel Earths, and so forth.
Yes.
And that not everybody that's here with us right now is going to come with us.
Correct.
At least the one I'm going to.
Correct. And you will not necessarily go to the one that they're going to.
Exactly. And so so we talk about this a lot. There are different theories about how this actually physically manifests. So do we just shift to an Earth where there's less people, or are there like major...
Not necessarily. It depends. There is a version of Earth with less people. But again, you will shift to the version that is representative of the vibrational state that you have created yourself to be. The idea, again, remember, is that there may be other versions of people there that are in the reality you're in now that are simply different versions. And therefore, it may not necessarily be that they have to be less populated, but they may be populated with the same amount of people, but different people who may look the same because they are another version of the people that you were used to in the previous reality, but they will not be the same people and they will have different approaches and different attitudes and different perspectives that are more commensurate with that particular reality. So it's not a given that the population has to go down, but of course there are some versions of parallel realities where the population is not as high. So yes, that's possible, but again, you'll find that out as you shift.
I bet I will. Yeah, because I feel like there are people that are so away from my vibration or like where I think I'm going to go.
Yes.
Like, I just like don't see how it's possible even for them to change.
But they don't in that sense. That's what I'm saying. Those people that would appear to be the same people who are different are already in that reality. They're not the same people.
Right.
Just because they look the same doesn't mean they are the same. It doesn't mean the old person changed. It means that you're dealing with a new person who happens to look like the other one.
Right.
Does that help?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And
yes.
yeah, no, I thought I had so many questions, but now I can't think of anything else to ask. So I think that's it for me today.
Then that is perfect timing. Thank you for your synchronicity and have a wonderful day.
Baashar, thank you so much. I love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Bye.
Dear Bashar, 11/11/2020, Russia announced that we are not alone, and the geopolitical and space expert Alexander Semenov spoke about the importance of establishing a peaceful collaboration in space. Could you give us your 5 cents on the issue? And happy belated birthday.
Obviously, we are a proponent of peaceful collaboration in space. Different cultures and different countries and nations on your planet will have their own recognition and realization at different timings of when it is appropriate for them to begin to admit and to recognize our existence and the existence of other extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional beings that have, to some degree, already been in contact with your planet, or those yet to contact your planet in a more open way. It's all part and parcel of the timing of the recognition and the opening of that recognition in different places on your planet that will eventually come together in a holistic sense so that the entire planet at one point will allow themselves to recognize the existence of extraterrestrial beings and in their own good timing be open to the idea of forming these collaborative interactions. Again, this will accelerate in the window of open contact that we have now said has shifted from 2023 to the idea of about 2033.
Hi, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How's your day going?
Perfect, and you?
Perfect as well. I'm having a really nice synchronicity because it's almost year minus a day since I had a podcast with you, and then it just synchronistically happened that I was going to be able to ask you questions. So
All right, congratulations on your synchronicity.
thank you. So I have a lot of questions about vibration, so hopefully we can get to most of them.
We will get to the ones that are important to get to, so you don't have to be hoping.
Okay, sounds good. So there was a woman I just recently watched Children of the Future, that transmission, and she mentioned a parallel life where she was a sort of doctor in a future reality. And she was talking about they were using vibration to, I guess, heal organs in the body.
Yes, this is a logical extension of where many will be heading in terms of experiencing everything as resonance, everything as frequency, and it will and is extending a little bit more and will continue to do so into your medical technology as well.
Right. And so my question was, I know we've also talked about you gave us an exercise where you could impose a vibration onto a ball and then we would find that it would go into a different location when it was. Yeah. So my question is, is there a difference, I guess, between imposing a vibration and getting a location and imposing a vibration and healing an organ? Or is there a difference, or how would that work? Like, for instance, if we impose a vibration on a liver, why wouldn't it move to a different location like the ball would?
Because you are not necessarily imposing a difference in the locational variable. You are taking a reading that gives you a different kind of output.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. And then with using,
Although, in a sense, it's the same thing because, again, you are shifting to a slightly different reality where there is a healthy liver. So in a sense, that is a change of location too, just not in the classical sense of moving across a space.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, so with your ships, because still with like vibration and the location thing,
Yes.
So I guess if we were to use it, or even just you guys using it to get to certain locations, would
Yes.
you have to know, or I guess, will we find a pattern with vibration and location so that, for
Yes.
instance, we don't
You
have
create a grid. You start with your position, whatever position you desire to be the zero position, and you expand a grid out from there that represents the different locational variables, of course.
And so would that be like an X, Y, and Z kind of thing? So you can like move up and down, not just.
Of course.
Okay. Okay, cool.
It would not only be an XYZ thing, but a T thing as well. Remember, your experience of time is included in that.
Oh yeah, because time is also like a marker for different. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Because it's not only where you arrive, but when.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. And so we'll find that then eventually at some point in our discovery of
Eventually.
yeah, somewhere in the future. Okay. Oh yeah. So then also I know all these questions have to do with vibration, but
You said they were.
yeah. So if we were to maybe impose isn't the right word, but if we were to find a way to impose a vibration, kind of like how you've mentioned Egyptians did, I think I might be quoting this wrong, but I think you mentioned at some point there were certain coffin-like objects where they would go into it and then that would astral project, like they would use.
We were talking about the coffer in the king's chamber in the Pyramid of Giza.
Okay, and so if we were to do something like that, like maybe using stone or something, whatever
Yeah.
it is, and then impose vibration, would we just astrally project or would our physical bodies also go somewhere?
Both are possible. Again, it just depends upon the construction and the vibrational resonance that is induced.
Okay. And how would we get back? Like, would it be safe to do it? Or?
Well, there are a number of ways. Again, of course, with astral projection, you are in control of coming back anytime you wish.
Right.
The idea of the chamber inducing astral projection is just something that helps with the impetus of projecting out. It doesn't mean you have to have the idea of a projector on the other side in the astral realm. Your consciousness is sufficient. The idea of physical teleportation is something that may require, again, depending on a variety of factors, another device at the other end.
Right. Okay, so for physical transportation like that, would the device at the other end have to be resonating at the same frequency? Would it be like a sort of, I guess, beacon, but that's not the right word.
Yes, in a sense, it is interconnected. It is sort of similar on a macroscopic scale of what your scientists refer to as entanglement.
Got you. Okay, moving into some dream questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
So I've noticed this past week, myself and some friends of mine who I guess, people would consider like in tune or whatever with the collective or everyone has that ability, but you know what I mean. We've been having a lot of dreams of, for one, this whole week, the dreams have just been objectively dark, like really like playing on themes either of manipulation or things like that. And then we were also having dreams, a few of us having dreams this week in a row of a lot to do with tsunamis. And I know that could just be representative of the emotional state with water and everything, but everyone's been having them in the same location. It's been in between, some people are having them in Hawaii and some people are having them in California.
Yes.
So
there is a probability of such happening physically, but of course, there is always also the emotional and psychological component of the idea of great shift and things being washed away to make room for new things. So it is on both levels because there is a physiological probability. It may not be high at this particular moment, but there is a physiological probability of such happening in physical reality too.
At some point in the future?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back to the vibration question. So with the imposing vibrations on bodies and stuff and astral projecting, will it feel like this is gonna be weird, but will it feel like the body's dying? Because like it feels like
it can. It depends upon the person's relationship and response to the idea of the vibration. It just depends on how cognizant they are of the shift and what the relationship and definition is of the idea that they are shifting into the concept or projection of a completely new personality, which to some may make it seem as if the old personality is dying in the classical sense, even though nothing of the sort is actually happening in exactly that way. So it just depends on the person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Baashar.
Good day.
Good day.
Hello again, Baashar, and thank you for your answers to my previous questions. You said in a previous transmission that the hybrid children sometimes like to play a game called Find the Portal. And I was wondering if we humans can also play this game, and what do we need to do to be a better energetic match to being able to play this game? And is any technology used to help play the game? And do the rules change as the children get older? Are there different rules for the younger children, the older children, the teenagers, and so on? Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
The answer to all of that is yes. The idea, of course, again, as following the formula refines your senses to make you more sensitive to certain kinds of energies, thus making it easier for you to find the idea of the nexus of any vortex or portal. But yes, as you change, as you mature, as you develop, and including the hybrid children, the so-called rules of the game will also change because they develop more skills, more abilities, and can expand the idea of what the game is and what it contains. So if you want to call the rules something that changes with the maturation of any particular being because now you can do more, have more abilities, have more skills in the game, then yes, those rules will change.
Good day, Baashar.
Good day.
Shavai.
What would you like to discuss?
Concerning the frequency of the individuals who are inherently experiencing a negative portion of reality and consciousness. When an individual incarnates in order to be a representation of the so-called negative frequencies or properties of the overall collective experience, what is the best way for them to go about it? For instance, an individual who is to give the collective an experience of addiction or an experience of infatuation to the point of detriment. How is one to go about a life that is inherently negative?
The idea, of course, is that anything can be used in a negative or positive way. No matter what an individual does in their state of being, others can use it to their own advantage if they so desire. That being said, all an individual has to do is choose circumstances and attract situations that constantly prevent them from becoming more aware of the fact that they are choosing that reality instead of simply feeling like a victim of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Another question. What psychedelic resonant with this planet would be closest to the Eshikani frequency?
Dimethyltryptamine.
I have noticed that it is very hard to get away from oneself when experiencing that level of self.
Yes.
And one more question. I have an intense desire to be a part of the growth experience and the first contact experience of the Eshikani and the human race.
Well, you're having contact with us at this point, so obviously you already are a part of it, or we wouldn't be talking.
Yes. And in what way could I possibly look into being a vessel for the communication directly from a member of the Eshikani to bring forth an even clearer message in my life of connection and contact?
If you're asking that kind of a question, you should already know the answer, which is?
Follow my passion and my bliss to the highest degree of my ability with no insistence on the outcome.
And finish the formula.
You've
only stated 3 parts of it.
Bring me clarity, Baashar.
You act on your passion to the best of your ability with no assumption or assistance on the outcome, and you remain in a positive state so that no matter what occurs, no matter what manifests from your actions, you can use it to your advantage and gain the benefit from it. Simultaneously, investigating with honesty your belief systems and letting go of the ones that are out of alignment with who you prefer to be.
Yes. I can honestly say there's nothing else to ask. I will get on that immediately.
All right. We thank you. Good day.
Bye.
Aveo.
Hi, Baashar. This is Pira from Detroit, and I have a question for you about fracking and the negative effects it has on the Earth currently and in the long run. Thank you. Ha'atu.
Anything in that sense that is invasive within the structure of the Earth may have long-term detrimental effects. Again, the idea is to find other sources of energy, such as the electromagnetic field of your planet, such as higher dimensional frequencies that can be downgraded, so to speak, or stepped down through transformer type structures into energy that you can use with your technology. So we would always suggest that you aim in the direction of those more natural sources of energy that are without the detrimental effects to the idea of the planet in a non-invasive way.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi.
Good day.
I have so two big topics or questions that I wanted to go over.
Yes.
The first is the story of Adam, Eve, and Lilith.
Yes.
I was wondering if maybe you can shed some light on that, and did these people actually exist?
Well, in a manner of speaking, yes, although the story, you know, in a sense, has been rendered into something simplified as a tale, as a metaphor. The idea of, in the ancient language of the Anunnaki, that injected their genetics into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, is that the male version of Homo sapien they created in their language is Adama. The female version is Eva, which you have transliterated into Adam and Eve over time. So the idea is that, of course, there was a first male and a first female, but the idea has been truncated, collapsed, condensed into the metaphorical story that you know in your Bible. Lilith represents again the idea of the continuation of the line of Homo sapien in the genetic alterations by the Anunnaki, and represents kind of the concept of independence, the ultimate independence of the human race, and the balance point that needed to be achieved when it was recognized that Homo sapien had been created, and offered the third alternative. As always, we talk about the idea that there is a trinity in existence, not just a duality. So the concept of Lilith and the feminine principle in balance, the masculine and feminine principle in balance in Lilith, creates the midpoint, the third reality, the balance point in the Trinity between the two dualities of male and female.
And why is it that Lilith, it seems to be that she was taken out of the modern version of what we learn?
Because as a patriarch grew and wanted to reinforce the idea of male dominance, the concept of the balance point of male and female in one body was anathema to them. And they sought to remove it so that they would retain control and empowerment over others and over the female side.
Okay, and that's interesting. And was this all done in a laboratory in Temple Mount, at Temple Mount?
There were many different labs around your planet, but the primary one was in the Middle East. The idea, again, is that, remember, this wasn't all done all at once. This took some time. So the idea of this story is quite condensed, and it condenses many, many decades, even hundreds of years of time in the creation of Homo sapien.
Okay. The Garden of Eden, can you shed some light on what that was and maybe where it was?
Well, again, in the Middle East, as given, between what you call the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in the Fertile Crescent, being the primary contact point and laboratory and civilization that the Anunnaki established when they came to Earth and spread out from there.
Okay. And the the serpent that came to Eve, who or what was this?
This is simply an indication of the awakening of the genetic markers that would allow the female to be closer to the concept of the original Anunnaki genetic structure. This is why you have the double intertwined serpents on your medical caduceus still today, as an indication of the genetics laboratories and the genetics that were injected into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, being that in the feminine side there was an alteration that allowed the feminine side to become a little bit more aware of the situation than the masculine side, and a little bit closer in expression to the original Anunnaki genetic strain.
That's interesting.
It also represents, therefore, the idea of ancient knowledge, that in a sense, because of the genetic alterations in the feminine form, there was more capability of accessing the knowledge of the Anunnaki.
That's fascinating. And in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, the Anunnaki, is that translated into Elohim?
For the most part, yes. Although the Elohim can also be other beings that were encountered from time to time, but in general, it's a reference to the ancient Anus, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bashar.
Yes.
And on another topic, so I seems to be obsessed with this story. I think it's the most exciting story, spectacular story, the story of Exodus.
Yes, yes.
Did the Jews know that were they aware that it was aliens that were taking them out of Egypt? Or
not as such. They didn't really comprehend the concept of aliens in the same way that you do today. They understood that the beings were from a higher dimensional realm, but the idea to them at that time, in their understanding, is what they ultimately decided was beings from heaven. Beings from above.
Is that what? So right now in our reality, it's kind of, we think that it's God that led the Jews out of Egypt and not actual beings. And was this what they wanted us to believe, or was it just a misunderstanding and it just kind of...
It is not that you were given information that would allow you to necessarily understand the specifics of it. So it is something that simply grew in human understanding over time based on the lack of information you had about exactly what these beings were, because they did not deem that humans were ready to understand the full implications of beings from other civilizations among the stars.
And do you think we are now?
Well, you obviously understand that there can be civilizations among the stars. You're talking to one right now.
I am.
Many people on your planet are willing to accept the possibility, at least, that there can be other civilizations on planets around other stars. This is not something that is necessarily that strange to your civilization anymore. You talk about it quite a bit in your scientific and astronomical communities.
True. Yes. And more.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could describe, I would really like to know what the interaction was like between Moses and the ETs at the top of Mount Sinai.
Some of it was physiological, some of it was telepathic. He was invited into a craft. Many things he was made to forget, but some things he was allowed to remember, as according to what was necessary for the proper approach and interactions and relationship between those beings and the people at that time, so that they could be guided.
And lastly, the Star of David, where did that come about, and why is it the symbol of the Jews?
It is the symbol of the relationship between those beings and those people, and in general between the above and the below. It is the intersection of the higher dimensions with the lower physical reality. It is a flattened form of the Merkaba.
Okay, so why wouldn't it be just the symbol of humanity. Why not the symbol for all of us?
It is, as I said. I just said that. At the time, it was the symbol of the relationship between those specific beings and the group that they were guiding. But it is, in general, the symbol of the relationship from the above to the below, from the heavens to the earth.
Okay. And one last hard question. Why did they save the Jews from Egypt, but they didn't protect them or save them in World War II from the Holocaust?
It was important to allow certain genetics from the Anunnaki line to survive up to a certain point. But beyond that, once there was dominion of the humans of the earth to make their own decisions, their decisions could not be intervened or interfered with beyond a certain point.
Okay. Thank you so much, Baashar. I love you very much.
Our unconditional love to you as well.
Bye-bye.
Good day.
Hey Bashar, this is Michael from Tel Aviv, Israel, and I'm excited to be asking you a question. So my understanding is that when we want to manifest things that we prefer, it's not about forcing anything or making anything happen. It's about allowing the manifestations to come as they need to when we are in the state we prefer. My question is, does that idea work for inner states of being as well? In other words, am I supposed to bring awareness to whatever's going on in my mind and allow the energy from my higher mind to flow through? Or should I be reaching for that higher energy, the higher mind, in a more conscious way? Thank you and good day.
Yes, the idea of reaching is, in a more conscious way, following the formula. That's why we give it to you. So that by following the formula, you allow the automatic to happen. And that is the increase in your frequency, which makes it easier for you to recognize the flow of communication from the higher mind.
Good day, Baashar.
And to you, good day.
My deepest appreciation for you and Daryl and April and Emmy and Desiree and everybody there for this opportunity. I appreciate having this chance to talk to you in this way. So thank you so much.
And our deep appreciation to you as well.
And I also want to say happy belated birthday. You and I have birthdays one day apart. So wishing you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much. And to you as well.
Thank you, Baashar. So my first question is, I'm having a lot of significance with birds. So right before this interaction, we saw a big bald eagle sitting in a tree outside the window.
How exciting.
It is exciting. And hawks tend to be a synchronicity sign. I've had some experience with some owls lately.
Oh, all right.
And then my favorite has been crows. So I've been really connected to this crow family that's nearby, and I interact with them on a regular basis. We go on walks, and they kind of come around and they hang out on the ground with us.
Yes.
And now I'm starting to notice that where I go and other places, there's crows that are not related that tend to do the same thing sometimes. So I wanted to see if there's any insight that you have to that.
Well, first, of course, and foremost, do remember that in synchronous symbolism, with a program that you have on Earth, you are, when you interact with those beings, actually walking with dinosaurs. You know this, yes?
I want to hear more.
Do you understand that birds are an evolutionary offshoot of one branch of the dinosaurs? That's why many scientists, now that they understand that some dinosaurs evolved into birds, actually refer to birds now more scientifically as avian dinosaurs. So you are walking with dinosaurs, which means you are connected to the idea of ancient experience, speaking linearly for a moment. You are picking up ancient experiences, grounding yourself in the very early eras of Earth and bringing them into the present, where the dinosaurs have learned to soar and fly and carry those ancient vibrations into the sky. So they form, in a sense, a link and a bridge between the earth and the sky, and those that can allow themselves to align with them in certain ways are also vibrationally carried aloft and yet remain connected to the ancient past, the ancient wisdoms, the ancient experiences in a timeless way.
I love that. So I guess my next question is there anything, obviously acting on my excitement, I understand that as the formula. Is there anything as far as communication with them that you can encourage or would give me any tips to make our interaction even more enriching?
Well, what has your imagination provided for you?
I haven't really tried to communicate with them. I just haven't felt the impulse yet, but I think that would be exciting at some point to start to communicate with them.
Then I would ask the first question is, if that is something you would find exciting, what is preventing you from using your imagination to figure out ways in which you would enjoy doing so?
Yeah, that's, I haven't thought of that, but I think it's just doing it. It's just silly just to, just do it.
You're kind of putting an imaginary block there that doesn't need to exist.
Sure. And thanks
So,
for helping me become aware of that.
All right. Well, allow yourself to fly then and expand your imagination and come up with all sorts of ways in which you could begin to communicate more clearly with them. One suggestion we might have that might help you, might assist you in this journey, is to look at the different birds that you said you were attracted to and recognize for yourself what each species actually symbolizes, represents to you energetically or symbolically. That can give you some insight as to how to relate to each of those different kinds of birds.
Okay.
All right?
I love that. Thank you.
All right.
My next thing I want to ask about is I recently went to Sedona for the first time and had a pretty magical, mystical experience there.
All right. How exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so there was a sunrise hike that I did to Bell Rock, and my girlfriend and I were there for a few days, and we did see a craft every night. And I did see the craft before my hike on Bell Rock. And I'm curious, because it was close to Bell Rock, if you could help me identify who that was.
Nope.
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay.
You're in process. Things will unfold. You'll get the information that you need, but not quite yet.
Okay. And then my next experience was we were doing a hot springs adventure at Mystic Hot Springs in Utah. And I did happen to see 3 grays, that 2 of them, so they were standing up on the hillside. It was interesting because 2 of them kept merging into one. Yeah. And it was a quick experience. And then later that evening, we went to sleep early, and it felt like I was dreaming all night long. And I know you've explained that it happens right as you're waking up, that it's being translated into our consciousness, but it felt like it was a long experience. And
yes. Well, the real experience did happen over a span of time. I'm just simply saying that what you wake up with as you remember as a dream is simply symbols that are created just before you wake up.
Okay. And so in that dream, there was the experience that we were on a craft with these 3 grays, the 2 of them kept merging into one.
We'll stop there for one moment.
Okay.
What you're describing is not literally physically happening to them that way. What you're experiencing is what might be called interdimensional lensing, where it's an expression of how they're interjecting themselves into your reality that makes it appear as if they're merging into one another. Not that that's actually physically happening. It's more of an optical illusion.
Okay. And so then we woke up, and then it was just, she actually had some physical illness after it.
Yes.
She didn't have the experience of the dream. She just felt the shift, and she felt the energy of it, but she didn't have any memory of it.
That's all right. It doesn't mean there wasn't some experience just because she doesn't remember.
Right. So in the morning when we went to leave our cabin, there was an interesting footprint on the door. It only had, from what I recall, it only had 4 toes, and
Yeah.
the foot was kind of, it wasn't bigger than our human feet, but it was oblong, if that makes sense, just the
Yes, yes.
shape of it.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you have any insight as to who that was, or if you have anything.
It was a gray.
Okay.
I don't think that's very mysterious.
I just wanted to see if you had anything else that you wanted to share about that experience.
Yes, it's a symbol that you have one foot in each reality.
It feels like that. And to kind of talk about that a little bit. So I know we're shifting billions of times per second, and it's
Yes.
the awareness that we're shifting. And so I'm feeling it vibrationally, I'm feeling it energetically. I'm seeing some signs, I'm seeing things physically that are also giving me that awareness. Do you have any tips as to what we can look for to be able to differentiate or have a distinguishment about the shifting, to notice that we really are shifting?
Again, if you need to notice, you will, but the formula we give you doesn't leave out the capacity to recognize those shifts in a different way more clearly. Remember that it leaves nothing relevant out. That's why we give you that instruction manual. And if you simply follow your passion and the rest of the implementation of the formula, you will raise your frequency. And as you raise your frequency, you'll make yourself a more receptive antenna for higher frequency information and awareness. So it's all included. Just keep going. Act on your passion as often as you can. Do it with no insistence on the outcome. Remain in a positive state. Explore yourself. Find the beliefs that work for you. Find the beliefs that don't and let them go. All of this will work together to give you more clarity and more perception of the shifts in the way that you need to.
Okay. Thank you, Baashar. That's all I have. I appreciate your time. Good day.
All right. Our deep appreciation and unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Good day.
Hi, Baashar. It's Sheila from Lakeland, and I'm excited to ask you this question. This has to do with me being mistaken either for a celebrity or for someone people know, and I'm wondering what that could mean for me. So after a live event, at one of your live events in Sedona, people saw me and they thought I was the celebrity Frances Fisher, which was really awesome. But as I've traveled all over the globe, people often think I'm someone they know. In fact, I walked into a store and this gentleman walked up to me with open arms and said, "Pat," and he was so happy to see me, but I wasn't Pat. And people will say to me again and again, even after we realize that I'm not the person they think I am, they'll say, "But really, the way you speak and your gestures are just like this person that they know." And I'm wondering what to make of that. It feels like a compliment. It feels really nice, which is great, and maybe that's all there is. But maybe there's something more to it. I mean, when I'm connecting with people, I'm always really excited, like a like a Labrador puppy, to meet people, and it feels like such a good connection, like I'm allowing all that is and source to flow through me and focus on, the best in people and reflect back the best of myself, and all that feels awesome. I'm just wondering if there's something more to it or something that I could use about this thing where people think they know me. Thank you.
Well, again, the idea is that your excitement and desire to be of service in that way makes you a little bit of a chameleon. You will then take on whatever the vibration is that reflects back to them that familiarity, so they feel comfortable enough for you to communicate the energy to them that allows them to move forward in the way that they prefer to. So you're being of service by being a little bit of a reflection of whatever it is they feel they need to be comfortable in accepting that frequency within themselves so they can move forward.
Hi, Baashar.
And to you, good day.
Well, firstly, a big thank you for the opportunity to have this interaction.
And a big thank you to you as well for the co-creation of it.
Thank you. Before I'm going to ask my first question, I want to say that I understand that there are different ways to look at this, and that different individuals use different mechanisms for the creation of the experience of Alzheimer's disease.
Yes.
And you explained that in general, the majority of people that have the experience of having Alzheimer's has to do with them being in denial about their lives, that they wish to forget, that there is something in them that is to them so painful they cannot deal with it.
This is a very, very generalized response, but it is true for many people, although it is experienced in a multitude of different ways.
Okay. Because I was wondering, we call this process also dementia.
Yes.
It almost seems like the personality structure of the people going through this experience is somehow dissolving, and that they are shifting through different dimensions very rapidly.
Yes, all sorts of mental disorders that in some way, shape, or form reflect or represent an alteration of personality, be it the idea you call of dementia or Alzheimer's, or even dissociative personality disorder or schizophrenia. These things have one thing in common, in general, at their core. It is in some way, shape, or form an inability, due to either belief systems or what have you, to not allow different aspects of the personality to harmonize and blend in a coherent way for the reality that they chose to be in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And I was also wondering, but what's happening on a soul level? How is the soul experiencing this process?
Well, again, it depends upon the reason why a soul may have agreed to have these kinds of experiences, or for the purposes that the soul needs those experiences, or simply in the way that the soul chooses to use them. So it will vary from soul to soul. But overall, the idea is one of seeking integration by creating dissociation, what appears to be disconnection, and then going through the process to arrive at a realization that disconnection is not real, but only an illusion. And that the paradox is, in order to actually have an experience of disconnection, you actually have to be connected. You have to be integrated to have an experience in some sense of disintegration.
Yes, I understand. And can you say that when people go through this process, that they eventually are able to look at the pain that they are, trying to avoid?
Some of them do and some of them don't. Again, it depends upon the choices that have been made for this life theme. Many of them give themselves the probability to arrive at that conclusion, but some of them choose not to, and they make their assessments in spirit after the life.
Okay. And I don't know, maybe in general, does the pain has to do with, a lack of self-worth?
It can. In general, again, a very generalized answer, everyone will have a specific way of experiencing this if they choose to. All pain is the result, fundamentally, of resistance to the natural self.
Yeah, I understand.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I also have a couple of questions concerning the Anunnaki.
Yes.
You mentioned that the Anunnaki were the first to genetically alter the DNA of the natural evolved Homo erectus here on Earth.
Yes, because at that point, the Homo erectus was available and compatible enough through panspermia millions of years before that for them to make the alteration and find enough similarity in their genetics to do so.
I understand. And I was wondering, after the Homo sapiens came into existence, have there been other alterations in our DNA due to other extraterrestrial races?
Yes, especially the Greys.
Especially the Greys.
Although they're not really an extraterrestrial race in the classic sense.
No, I understand. But for instance, the Pleiadians or any race we know of, do they made some alterations in our DNA also?
Well, not exactly in the same context. Some have been, by agreement, an energy shift that creates an alteration in your DNA by having you be given a frequency that then you choose to align with to create the alteration. But it's not a physiological manipulation in the typical sense.
Okay, I understand. And you also mentioned that the Anunnaki evolved, but did they evolve into a non-physical?
A few of them have, but basically what you know as the Pleiadians is one of the evolutionary offshoots.
Okay. So are the Anunnaki genetically linked to other extraterrestrial races that we know of? Yeah, you just explained it.
Well, I said Pleiadian, yes.
Okay.
And others that you may not know of.
Okay. Okay. And Also concerning what we now talked about, I was wondering if I'm correct in my understanding that the Greys and the human beings have the same Anunnaki ancestors, but that the genetic alteration...
Well, not exactly the same, because the Greys come from an alternate version of reality. So they had their own history of interaction with the Anunnaki, but they're not the same Anunnaki because those Anunnaki belong in an alternate parallel universe.
Okay. Okay, because I was wondering, I read somewhere that as a result, the people who eventually evolved into the Greys had a different expression of these genetic alterations than the human beings in this timeline. But that makes sense. Yeah.
Although the idea is that the humans of that version of Earth didn't, quote unquote, evolve into the Greys. They mutated themselves on purpose to be able to handle the environment that existed when they destroyed their version of Earth.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I thought, it's a mutation. I thought
it's a mutation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for this.
Yes. It is the reason why some of their DNA can be compatible with the DNA of humans on your version of Earth and other versions of Earth, is because they actually started out as human.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would be too incompatible to create hybrids.
Hybrids, yes, exactly. Thank you for this.
Yes.
That was what I wanted to ask you today. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Pleasant dreams to you.
Thank you.
Good day, dear Baashar. I would like to ask you about the gravity well. What does it look like? What is it made of? What is its geometry? How can we replicate it? Thank you. I love you.
On the template level, it is again the idea of the distortion of the space-time field, the space-time fabric, the consciousness field itself. The idea of how it looks in template form is as, in a two-dimensional description, just for the sake of convenience, like two overlapping Fibonacci spirals going in opposite directions radiating from a central point.
Hi.
And to you, good day.
Such a pleasure to see you again.
It is always a pleasure to interact with you as well.
I have a few short questions and then something to discuss with you.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the short questions.
All right.
There has been like 2 books written a long time ago around soul schools by Michael Newton, how we are always in a soul pod and we're actually in school learning to grow.
In many different ways, yes. In many different ways, yes.
Yes. And does this happen with more advanced or civilizations that are already aware of the different...
There is always more to learn. There is always room for growth. It never ends.
That's great. There is kind of, like for you, like you say, you don't sleep, you don't eat. So is there still this this kind of sleep state that we go into, and then this awake state, although they can be the opposite at a soul level?
Yes.
That you experience, or it's more of just an understanding that...
For more, it's a constant experience of walking through different dimensions of space and time and spirit, constantly in a dream, constantly awake. But again, we also have what you might call mentors, teachers, higher dimensional beings that are also helping us to experience more things beyond the point to which we have already evolved. Again, it never ends. They have their mentors. They have their mentors.
Sure. So compared
and even the idea of all that is can still experience different versions of all that is. It never ends.
It can just become perhaps a little more conscious.
That is exactly what happens. You expand your consciousness to contain, in more awareness, another level within yourself.
Yes, got it. Thank you. Is the average human life expected to be longer?
Yes, because the paradox is the more you live in the moment, in a sense, the less aging you experience. and therefore you appear to live longer in physical terms.
But not necessarily in like how we calculate age.
Well, in other words, just as we, on average, though there are longer lived beings in our society, on average, will live to about 300, but will probably look to you like we're about 30.
Mm-hmm.
So you are achieving this slowly as humanity, many of you, not all of you, but many of you.
Because there's a lot of people are starting to talk about how actually we should be able to live up to 140 years.
Oh yes, easily. And most likely you will find that within the next 50 to 75 years, that might be about the average lifespan. Maybe 120 to 150, depending upon the individual.
Wow. But there is also this collective that needs to be moving along for that to be happening for those individuals as well.
Yes, but again, remember that when you shift to another version of Earth that already has that collective.
Right. That's true.
I know, that's why I said it.
Yeah, thank you. In the near future, will we find a new material to replace plastic, or would we be able to find a way to break down plastics sooner?
Well, both. What we utilize is based on something your scientists understand to be nanotechnological. And it is a kind of crystalline metallic form that has plastic qualities that can change and shift its shape as it needs to and provide many different kinds of effects and have many different kinds of uses. Our ships, in a sense, are grown, and they have this ability to shift their shape and even within the cabin to provide what we need when we need it, and when we don't need it, it simply absorbs back into the walls or the floors or the ceilings. And it's all made out of the same seamless material.
That's so exciting.
Yes. So you're approaching this idea of this nanotechnology slowly. You'll arrive at something similar in the relatively near future.
That's great. That's great. I don't know whether people have asked this, but as we're approaching open contact, and
Yes.
I'm just like putting everything you've spoken about, how in there is no in the whole in all that is, there is positive and negative and all that. So there must be positive and negative extraterrestrials as well.
Well, yes, but your planet is not really dealing with what you would consider to be truly the negative ones. There may be some that have different agendas than you that are visiting your world. There may be some that don't pay much attention to you. There may be some that don't necessarily understand you and so can come off somewhat negative or cold to you or unfeeling or uncaring. But none of them that you're dealing with are really what you would consider to be malevolent.
Is that because of the kind of school Earth is?
Yes, and also because the vibrational changing that you are aligning with simply doesn't allow for those kinds of beings to find the version of Earth that you're creating for yourself, because it's too vibrationally incompatible.
Meaning we're quite vibrationally positive?
Those that align with that are and can never experience something that's that vibrationally negative outside of your own reality. Because Earth is its own island in a sense, collectively speaking, and it's going through different kinds of transitions collectively as well. Most of them are simply not compatible with beings that you would find to be relatively malevolent, although of course there are some versions of Earth that are, but you're not on them. Otherwise we wouldn't be talking to you.
Sure. Yay. Okay, good. It makes sense.
Yes, because there would be no point in it.
That's right. That's right.
So yes, there are versions of Earth experiencing extremely malevolent extraterrestrial beings, but that simply has nothing to do with the ones that we are communicating to you in.
Right. And that's not the one I'm in.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking.
Yes, got it.
One moment, we heard a question. Yes, of course, we might communicate with some versions of Earth that have the capacity to shift from the negative to the positive vibration, because certainly that's to some degree what we're doing with your experience of the different versions of Earth. But I'm simply saying that below a certain threshold, there's not going to be necessarily choices being made by the collective consciousness that would allow themselves to shift to something more positive, and therefore those are the ones that would be pointless for us at this point to communicate with. So yes, we might communicate with some that have the potential to change, but not with the ones that have chosen no potential to change in that direction.
Totally get it. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Bashar.
Good day.
Good day.